You are in for an interesting ride.
It's not often that we're lucky enough to have a team join us on a field trip. And on Sunday, the 10th of July, 2022, we did. In Calverley Grounds, I joined Dowsing Detective and remote viewer Peter Vincent, along with Nigel Stapple from West Kent Archaeology, John and Geoff, who were doing a resistivity test, which means they were testing the resistance in the ground. Now, the ground was very dry and it was a boiling hot day on July 10th. So the ground being so hard did not throw up a lot of resistance. Normally you get a lot more idea of what is below the ground and what may be showing resistance. In this case, we were looking at the possibility of there being sandstone blocks like a monolith in the ground that had perhaps been just laid there in Roman times, pushed over, no longer in use if it had been a ceremonial item. We did get some results and they're certainly worth sharing. So this is a test, and we had the lovely Rebby on board with us. She asked if she could join the group for the day, which she did. And thank you, Rebby. You did an absolutely amazing job. And I will just say that if anybody else wants to join us on these trips, please do. We don't do field trips all the time, but when we do, you're very welcome. And you'll see that Rebby tried her hand at dowsing and also helping with the laying out of the grid work where the testing was done, because a lot of field trip work is really nitty gritty, quite laborious work of preparing the environment first, i.e. perhaps by measuring, looking for sandstone, we set the parameters, what we're actually searching for. Of course, then the equipment will feed back what it's picking up, and you'll see the results of that at the end of this film. So this is the ET Newsroom on a field trip on the 10th of July, and there is more to come. So at the moment we're just flagging out the area. We're here to see if we can determine there are any Sarsen stones bar this part here that is peeping out, because Peter has in fact dowsed and remote viewed that there are likely 18 along here. Try and ascertain how many of these kind of stones are there, because they are out of place for the topography or geology of the area. And it could be, this might be the location of another set of stone circles or be another sacred site.
They might not be circles, they might just be individual.
Yeah, that's true.
How many is that so far?
6 now.
6.
Seven. Forget 8. 10. 12. 15. 18 in a straight line all the way along here, which is a Masonic and a temple code number. The question is, are there any more over there? So does this form a... They've obviously all been pushed down and covered over with soil. Yeah, well, a long time ago, yeah. Let's see if there's any up here. To me, it's the edge of the burial ground.
Yeah.
18 stones is a symbolic number.
Burial grounds there, the stone rows here.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating, guys. Very interesting indeed. Peter, do you want to tell us about the energy lines, the ley lines that you found coming out from those?
Well, this stone called RI, there's a feeling whether it's a sarsen or a sandstone, but it's the right size for something anyway, being pushed over. But after I'd remote viewed it, I thought, well, this is a symbolic number of possible stones. Something just led me to think, well, should I do a ley line test on it? So I did, and I found that all the way along the edge, down to that tree there, is a line up to probably the first or second little tree along there. Then it was framed each side going up. The other thing then, I thought, is there anything special about these stones? So I found that 9 of them had a ley line just going from the stone. Not this one, but the one here and the one there had a ley line just going up past the stone by a few feet above it. So when it was standing up, the ley line would have gone up the stone into the sky. I found that out of the 18, 9 of them were responding to that sort of analysis on remote viewing. What's special about this? And triggered the 9 gods of Egypt. How did you come to that? Because I find that interesting. Well, because the number 9, it's a special number.
But there are 200 or is it 2,000 gods of Egypt?
Well, the 9 gods of Egypt were supposed to be the original.
The Ennead.
So Osiris, Atum. The thing is that when you then look at the 9 gods of Egypt, the spelling of their names on the internet, and you take the first letter of each of the 9 gods and you value them against the 16 symbol temple codes, which were all over the world, but different symbols, but still 1 to 16, and then on to 18, 19 being Atum. The valuation of it came out to 41, and I thought that's amazing, because in this analysis you have, when you've got number 12, you have to do it 1 plus 2, so it's all single numbers, so 10 becomes just 1, because 0 has no value to them. So therefore it all came to 41, and immediately that registered with me, because 41 is symbolic with the old Home Office name. It was called Department 9, which had to be based on the 9 gods of Egypt, and they changed it to the Home Office to try and hide that. So when you add 5 and 6 for the intelligence services, 11 Downing Street, 10 Downing Street and 9, it all comes to 41.
And you're talking about MI6 and MI5.
Yes.
I'm still not quite sure, and I think other people will find the same, as why you draw an obvious conclusion to you of the Home Office being number 9,
because
having
it was
a correlation.
Called Department 9.
Yes, but having the correlation to the 9 gods of Egypt, that I'm not seeing the link.
It's almost as if you're being guided to this information, but it was all triggered by very informative Blaze TV archaeology channels. Now, you mentioned to me about Stephen and Evan Strong in Australia. Well, after my email to them about the 16 symbol alphabet, they spoke to the First Nation representative who wrote a book. They said that they had a 16 symbol temple code as well.
And Evan and Stephen Strong, for those who don't know, their website is forgottenorigin.com, and they're based in Australia, father and son team who are doing fantastic, groundbreaking work.
According to the powers to be, there's never been evidence of the Romans in Tunbridge Wells, but they were all over the place. There's a Roman road from Rye Harbour right the way to London Bridge. So if the Romans were here, even if they marched through, the first thing they did was to tame the tribes into their faiths. And anything such as standing stones, they would have just pushed over. And if those stones had been pushed over then, 1,000, 1,500, whatever it is, 1,000 years old, you've got leaf litter and detritus landing on it all the time, and therefore you get a layer of soil building up. And when the military cartographers came around in the 1860s, they never logged these stones down here at all. So that one didn't get picked up at all. So it wasn't standing.
We believe
See how far this goes back?
Is one of the standing stones that's just become part of the edging of the area of this part of the park.
Solid there.
Yeah.
So that would be quite a size then.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's coming around like this.
Yeah. You need to get someone to confirm that is Sarsen.
What's Sarsen made of? Sandstone?
No, it's a type of sandstone, but it's very hard
Yeah, can you
and
flip that?
you get it in the Medway Valley.
Yeah, have a look at that.
But if that is Sarsen, that demonstrates it is an ancient site. It's not just a stone that's just been dragged locally.
Yeah.
No,
Look, there's another bit here, but it's not.
whether it's a local.
It's not connected to that. It's just here, as if they've been breaking.
But it doesn't look local to me.
No. Nearly all the other stones in people's gardens at that time, which you can see on the first ordnance survey maps because they're 1 in 500 scale, show a crystal sign which is a representation of a stone standing up, whether it's a memorial in a graveyard or a standing stone. And sometimes they've emphasized this by making it very, very big. And if one looks at Woodbury Park Cemetery on the map, you'll see that the stone sign is clearly there in different signs showing that they are gravestones. So that the fact that they weren't picked up here means that they were pushed over and covered up. That's why they weren't picked up. And in other people's gardens around the town at that time, they sort of kept these features, and there are star signs to be seen in these stones. That's the interesting part. Particularly, we picked up at least 6 star signs: Canis Major, Canis Minor, the plough, Orion symbol, for instance. And one wonders, when we looked at the particular map, which was LX12, we pointed this out to people, traced the star signs out, handed the tracing to a certain organisation which I haven't seen sight of it since, and the map then disappeared out of the reference library.
Oh yeah, so you've been trying to find that,
yeah,
haven't you, recently, and
So-
there is no sign of this one section of map that the military
the
did back.
first, in the 1860s, LX12, the very first one that was done, and it's a 1/500 scale, so absolutely everything shows on it: the trees, the seats, the post boxes, ice houses, grids, the outlines of houses, and it's very, very detailed. So somebody tried to fob us off that it was the difference between deciduous and non-deciduous trees. So that's why we sort of didn't look any further. And then when I looked at one of my research maps, I noticed that there was a strip of these things coming from Grove Hill Road towards the Calverley Grounds. And when I added them up, there were 42. And 18 is very symbolic in relation to 42.
And do you want to tell us how that is?
42 is the code that we use for divining purposes, and here is code 42. So it's red, pink, grey, silver and green. And we never realised we were given this code as an access point to other code. And it wasn't for another 12 to 18 months after our visit to one of London's museums, where they tested our colour system, that we realised these colours actually had number of power values. And then we realised that this added up to 42, because red 9, pink 13, grey 2, silver 12 and green 6. And we added it all, that's 42. So the thing is that we were communicating through here to 42.
Which is an ET connection.
Connection, yeah. And then informed that because we were doing this, we might get a visit.
That is the story, I think, of John Amor, because we'll pick up that story on
Yeah,
another
it's
recording.
well worth it.
So we're just going to ask Geoff about this piece of equipment, and what John's been saying is that we're actually testing for moisture resistance or amount in the ground. Is the machine.
It's not the electrical resistance between the two probes you might imagine. It's between those two probes and some static probes which I'll put out there.
Oh right, so this is, John was saying that this has it's to do with measuring the moisture.
Well, it's the electrical resistance of the ground measured in
Right.
ohms.
Okay.
But if there's something solid like a wall, the electricity won't pass very, very well. It's high resistance, if you like. If it's like a hole, a hollow, it's low resistance and the power will go through there,
Exactly.
which is where the moisture tends to be.
Right,
So if it's rock
okay.
hard, it will be high resistance. If it's low, like a dip full of sort of humus and stuff like that, it'll be damper. So if it's ditches and pits and things. We're looking for stones really, but unless there's the pits that the stones were buried in, of course.
We've got a few interested locals here.
We can't put the remote probes in the actual grids themselves, of course, so they'll have to be out here.
Are these acting as probes?
Nope, that's just purely showing us where every square metre.
Oh, okay. There. So that's simply to facilitate the grid.
Every square metre out of the grid, and you get something interesting. You can then lay it out again and go exactly where it was and dig a hole.
Right.
If you dig here and the object's over there, it's a hell of an effort and it's the wrong place.
Of course.
So it's important to know where we are really.
So remote probes coming down here then. Oh, that's going to be interesting.
The static probes.
Oh, right. Okay. Static probes coming here. I'm learning on the job, folks, so don't ask me. This is exciting.
I mean, personally, I'm still not convinced that the Pantiles is actually in the right place. I'm not convinced that's the original Calverley Spring. I think that's on Broadwater Warren. There's a massive grate. I don't know if you've seen this with where it's all boarded out. It's absolutely huge, you know. So I've got a funny feeling that was what was originally discovered. Not Lord North, you know, is supposed to have found it. I mean, it just talks about the fact he was coming through Eridge Park, you know, and he come across this huge great area of Calverley Spring. Well, you show me a huge area of Calverley Spring actually on the Pantiles. You've got one tiny percolating spring that comes up. You go to Broadwater Warren, and it's massive.
Yeah.
But it's this area here. Why did it always stay a green space? Usually because there was some reason why you keep something special. So there's that argument. Well, with everything that's gone on around it, why did this always stay like this? We don't know.
Only got a day or two to do whatever you need.
Just today to do the survey. If anything comes up, then I mean possibly we'd put in a project proposal, but it's highly unlikely we'd get permission to do test pits and stuff.
Council's changed, isn't it?
Well, we never thought we could do this. I'm very surprised. I mean, we've asked several times in the past, no, not interested. But since there's a slight imbalance or the balance has changed in the council, we seem to have a slightly more open-minded council.
Like the history and everything.
Well, most of my work's on the periphery, like Rust Hall, Langton, Southport, most of my main sites. I don't tend to do too much in Tunbridge Wells, basically because it's been built on.
Yes.
You know, I've got a few local sites in gardens and stuff, but most of what I find in prehistory is on the periphery.
Yes.
You know. But there could be something here. Right.
So remote probe. Just got to find the sweet spot.
Better? About there? Yeah, so I'm looking at I think we're okay to go ahead then. Okay.
We've got to march up and down, so basically what they're trying to do is
March up and down. I
stop
like.
too much pressure on here.
Yeah, right, okay.
That's exactly 30, that's a good start. 36 resistance.
So what does that tell us, Geoff?
Square really.
Oh,
so
right.
You need to do lots of things to get a proper.
Okay.
But it's 36 at the moment.
36 at the moment.
32 ohms. Fluctuation 42, 40, 38, 40, 41. A bit more consistent now. 36, 38, 31, 32, 46. 50, 43, so it fluctuates all the way along. I actually wonder if the ground has been made up as Nigel was saying. It should be consistent. You see it nice monolith on its side, it will suddenly shoot up and then it will go down again. Here it's going up and down everywhere. 62 at the moment, so it's way high. 65, 67, 56, 52, 59, 63, can't read that, 95,
Wow.
that's the monolith, 89, monolith, 89, 88, 55, but ideally should be 30, 30, 30, oh 50, 60, 30, 30, 30, not up, down, up, down, up, down all the way, as though the ground's been made up or particularly. So it's 83, which is rather high, so that it's 161. Ridiculously high, 138. I've only got sort of 81, 76, 78, 120 something or other.
So as Geoff was explaining, where there is high resistance indicates a more solid body or material in the ground, and the much smaller readings like 30, 40 indicate maybe hollow, maybe just the ground itself. We should be doing this sort of thing for all the kind of sites we're looking at.
Most of it. Yeah. But there won't be one in isolation. I would imagine if there's any, there's going to be.
Nigel Stapple from West Kent District Archaeology.
So we're just talking
joining us
about
today.
this stone and that we've spotted there, and whether it is in fact a Sarsen stone or a sandstone.
No, it's sandstone.
It is sandstone.
Sandstone, yeah.
It is local sandstone, okay.
Oh, there's bedrocks all around here. I mean, Tunbridge Wells are built on sand.
When you come down Tea Garden Lane,
Yeah.
and you come down the bend past.
That's what I was telling you about earlier. There's standing stones there.
There's a great big round ball type stone. There's a great big rock there, and there's a cave in the.
Yeah, there's a lot going on down there. I'm working just at the back of that in Langton. There's some areas there I'm working on, but eventually I hope to get into that area and have a proper look, because there's some things going on.
Yeah.
We'll have to have a look at some point.
John and Geoff join us from West Kent Archaeological Society today.
But that's been quarried at the front of that. That has been chivied away. There is some evidence of metal tool marks. Yes. Oh.
I'm trying to do a 10x20.
There's 10x20 and it should be 22.36.
22.36. Thank you.
That's John, and we've got Geoff there, and again we're just laying out the area. So this is quite exciting because here in the remote viewing dowsing world we don't often get to have some other parties involved to give us some kind of confirmation or test it, even if it's not confirmation, it's or corroborating what we found. It's still an interesting exercise, and would that we could do this a lot more frequently.
And you want this yellow to go on top of the red one, but at that mark there where the blue tape is, sorry, black tape is, you'll stick it in the ground.
So we need to get the peg in the
So
ground,
it crosses there basically.
across the blue
Across
and
that wood,
And then-
that colour there, yeah,
and
the
the
black
red.
there, yeah.
blue
And
and
then
red.
feed it along to the yellow line, which I'm just going to put out.
Do you mind joining in, Rebby? That's great. Welcome to the Dowsing Detective work. I'm just going to get one or two people helping out. So, Rebby, let me just show you what we're doing. Where there is a red here and here, and the black coming up, we just need the peg in the area. So it's just to wherever these are laid out. Thank you very much. I'll be joining the team in a minute, doing the physical work as well. So just to show what we are doing here, we're creating a grid. A lot of this field work, folks, it's work, it's leg work, arm work, brain work. So if anyone ever wants to come on a field trip with us, you let me know. But you have to be prepared to do something, as well as enjoy our incredibly exciting company. Okay, I'm going to get to work. Peter doing ring of roses round the tree.
Follow that cable there, take it down there.
Watch you don't trip up.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Do you want me to just pull that out the way there?
Okay.
Well, okay, yeah. Okay. That's it. That's the end of the road. Slightly larger bleak. 128, 114, 127, 140, 138, 117. Open the circuit. 104.
This is our little encampment. Got Nigel talking about the pan tiles and the elements of archaeology in the area, saying that mostly council is not interested in doing any archaeology around here, and he thinks it's mainly down to finances. It may be. I think it's also, there's so much around here that it was actually accepted by the mainstream public at large and other authoritative bodies about some of the material we've been finding here. That would change the face of Tunbridge Wells entirely, and also the nature of a lot of understanding of our human history. Do they want that, or do they want to keep control? Answers on a postcard, please.
I always start with maps.
It really got his attention, apart from the remote viewing and the dowsing testing. It was seeming to come up on the maps what he was finding.
You've got to still be a bit careful with maps. You know,
Of
you've got to
course,
cross-reference them. 18th century maps are about the best of the earliest ones, and then any earlier than that, they're a little bit quite inaccurate in terms of scale.
Well, also because there's been so much development in the area.
That's the geophys results. So there's stone packing. So there's
Okay.
yeah. This is what we uncovered. So it confirmed the geophys. There's no dating for it yet, but we did find from a metal detecting survey a piece of medieval hack silver, which might be
amazing.
associated. A background scatter of prehistoric tools, but again they could just be from landscaping.
So we're just talking about archaeology and what really constitutes archaeology when you come out of university. It's only fieldwork really that...
Getting your hands dirty, getting in a hole, digging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, most of my work's on private land, but as I say, I've got access to the common, and we've been there for about 3 or 4 years now.
So this is a lady who does a great job of...
History with Carly. He's really good. So I'd certainly recommend that as a YouTube channel.
Okay, great. Always handy to know these recommendations.
And then there's another one, Uncharted X is another good one. That's mostly Egyptology, but they have slightly different approaches to research.
Yeah, there was a great lady called Dr. Carmen Bolter, who sadly died a little bit too young for my liking. And
She's very good as well. She has some quite good, well thought out ideas.
Carmen Bolter was talking about things that were related to ET in her many trips to the pyramids. Zahi Hawass did not like it.
Now this guy's good. He talks a lot of his research is to the extreme of sort of ideas, but actually, you know, he does cover some interesting sites. He's not following the mainstream, but he's worth looking at. I think he's a Kent-based.
Okay, great. Thanks for that.
You don't need a degree in archaeology to be an archaeologist. You just need that field experience. Get out and dig a hole. But not here.
No, I don't think they'll allow us.
Definitely get permission to do it.
I get over range now, so that's 204. Oh, quite a reason above 200 there.
No.
161.
And there'd be a
Over range.
stone there, not quite so much there.
Over range. Well, there's the stone.
Yeah.
When it's out of range there, Geoff, does that mean it's over 200 and something or other?
I only assume it. I've never had it before, sort of thing.
What's the limit of that? What does it go up to? Do you know?
Normally around 30, give or take 10 or 20, sort of thing, to the 200, let alone over range. So dry or such sandy soil or both. Thumbs it up to the end. Image the line, which comes back to there, which I'll dummy out. Dummy out this one.
Right, so now we've got John.
Right, what we're going to do, we're going to put tapes out. You can still use them lines if you want to, Geoff. If you want to go over to mine, I haven't got no problems. It's just easier for me. Right, so what we want to do, we want to tape on that line there. Right, we're going to put a tape up from there to 0 on that one.
Right, okay. Once again, creating a grid. I'm a bit puffed because we've been moving some of the tapes around, and John is going to do another testing of the land slightly differently. It's
And
the
this is called
geophysics.
resistivity.
Right, testing for the
Moisture in the ground.
Moisture in the
So
ground.
when you've got a brick wall, you won't get any moisture in the brick. And when you've got a ditch full up with water, you get a low res. So when you get a brick wall, you get a high res.
Yeah.
So what you're getting, if you get pebbles in the ground, it makes it more high res because it dries it out more. So what we're trying to do is get a difference between the high and the low, stones and a ditch that's got nothing in it. If it's just pure soil with water in it, it's low, and if it's a brick wall, it's high. And then you've got everything between. And then what you're trying to do is put contrast to it. You can either put shades of grey to it or a colour, rainbow colour.
Charges $250 for resin mag and $500 for GPR.
Okay, you can keep that on the other end.
Yeah.
So what you do, because we've got that on there, I'm going to go every odd one.
Yeah.
So put that on the 1 metre. I'm actually going to be on that one.
Alright, so you're going on 1 metre one. Where's your pig? There.
Right, the pig there, put that in there,
Yeah.
and then run it down to the 1 metre line down the other end.
Right.
If you run that all the way down
Yeah.
there,
Something ain't works out. I'm short. That's your feet, I want your feet.
we've got something odd going on here.
I know, yeah. The tape's obviously back to front this way.
15 metres
With the...
is from that post there to that post up there, so that's 15 metres. There,
Right,
see? Right, just put that there, like that, blocking all that out.
right.
Right, and then when the next one comes in,
Yeah.
that goes at 1 metre, which goes across there, right, which goes there. Let's get these two out of the way
Yeah.
first, and then we come to a bit of normality because we're then on the things.
Yeah.
But don't worry about that twisting it.
It's trying to get the grid sorted to start with.
That'll do, it's fine.
Meanwhile, we've got Rebby and Geoff continuing.
This is the cable we're going to have to feed. Yeah, I normally pull it, don't worry, it's when it gets tangled up. Put that in again, that one.
Although we know now that actually the slightly wetter months are better to get a result. So we're going to find Peter and John in the picnic bench area.
With Nigel describing how the land has come to look as it is.
So all that's happened is you've got closer to the natural, but obviously whatever was here is gone.
Yeah, that's right. So that's why it's only worth doing that end down there.
Well, no, because if you don't know how deep the features are. I mean,
Well,
if
the
it came
miniature
here,
golf has been done here.
I know it was here, but how many little features
There's
were
one there.
There's one behind
one
it.
here.
What were you picking up with your survey?
Well, burials basically.
Did you get anything up there?
I didn't go in there
Because that looks more undisturbed. Isn't that? That looks like the natural topography coming down and then cutting into it here.
Yeah, but I don't know what the burials, if they turn to stain, what on earth it would show.
I mean, if there's proper grave cuts, you should get arch marks eventually. If we have a really hot summer and dry summer. But then you've got these modern crazy golf.
Yeah, see, something is a parch mark there, but I mean.
Go to there, that'll be 5 metres. Alright, that's to there. So what we're doing, 6 metres here. I'm not doing any trigonometry or anything this time.
So just having a look at the natural topography. Nigel was just saying that looks like it there, and also that top ridge.
just this bit here, this rewilding area. Yeah, and then coming down, you can see at this far end, the original sort of slope of the land. And this is all the landscaping that's been done in modern times, same as the upper tennis court or the courts up there. So man-made, probably natural, man-made, and then natural at the back there. And probably natural coming down, apart from the path obviously being put in. They've levelled it here, so if the barrels are here, they're probably deeper than they were before, because that soil has been put on this end.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there were physical clues left.
We put 0 and 1 up there, down there, and then put the next one on number 2. Want me to do that? I'll do that one.
You get started. Are we just putting 2 out and then splitting them?
Yeah.
So we're just going to create a couple of grids. Well, I tell you what guys, maybe it needs to be a bit damper or wetter for us to get the results that would be more meaningful, and we won't know until we do get the results, but it's a beautiful day. It's about 23, 24 degrees, maybe more. And I was just saying to another member of the team that ain't nothing glamorous about field trip work. Messing about with the land, in these guys' cases, getting measurements. And of course, you need to be able to do it without people disturbing you, so we're lucky today. So just laying out that cabling.
And all these beeps and recordings are being logged, which we will see later on at the end as an outcome of what the land showed us.
So I'll have the cable over there, and we'll move the lines over 2 more, alright?
That can't be right. That's a 4 metre, that's a 3 metre one. That's a 4 metre one.
So Peter just said they're getting interesting responses there. This is what we need. Folks with scientific equipment that can come and test the hypotheses that Peter's coming up with and some of the biolocation team have come up with in the past through remote viewing and dowsing. Time for a drink. It's so hot today. I'm not complaining, but yeah, it's hot.
Just come back here and then walk forward here.
Am I holding it properly?
Yeah, hold them straight, up, level.
So Rebby's going to have a go for the first time with some dowsing.
That's about that. Yeah, now walk forward that direction.
I feel like I'm jiggling it just by walking.
Don't grip them, let them flow freely. Just read the colours, red, pink, grey, silver, green. Now walk that way along there, see what happens. If they want to go towards each other, let them go towards it. Can I just touch?
Look at that.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, you've got something. It does take a bit of time if you've never done it before.
Wow.
Now carry on walking and see if they open up. Right, now.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
So what is this? Is it called a witness?
Yeah,
What
it's
is
an
this?
alien burial.
Love it.
Right, we've crossed there.
Oh, look. Okay, let's focus. Focus.
Yeah.
Whoa, whoa.
Think
What
burial.
are you guys up to
carry
now?
on. Oh, yeah, I'll have a go.
There we go.
That's right. Yeah, so
That's
walk
how
the
it's done
walk that
properly.
you've just done. See what happens.
Burial, oh my goodness. Did you have to kind of focus on
Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
Is that the same place that happened for me?
What should do eventually, you just you don't grip them too much, just let the rods, just have another go going along there.
So how did you know that these
Well, you feel it in your mind. You feel them going
I mean,
in your mind.
this. How did you know originally?
Well, that's
Were you
another
given
story.
that? Have a cup of tea and some cake sometime, hey? Yeah. Your elbows, should they be just loose?
What you want to do is your mind wants to focus on the rods, basically, because
on the rods.
mind, the ferrous system's reading the colours.
Here Peter is testing to see if he can pick up any evidence of ley lines.
There's no ley lines at all. Do you want to come and do the ley lines that side?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, of course, is the human burials.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this burial.
Well, that's a male burial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it can be stained, you see, that just lets track that out.
Buddies, here we come.
You're not getting any response.
No.
No, you're not. Yeah, I think people find it extremely difficult to do, actually.
Yeah. So you just, all you do, your arms are sort of pretty much down by the side and it's just very loose and you just reel it at a 90-degree angle more or less. The idea is that the body picks up the frequency as well as you move along. Your whole system is in tune with it, if you like.
Yep. And then the other one is 0.2
0.2
67
67.
512 east.
Rightio.
So that,
Yep, that's the first one.
right, and we go up here. Now I'm going to do it to the 5 metre point, not to the end bit.
Right.
5 metres is there. Because I went right along here, didn't I, you see?
Yeah, you did.
One, yeah, so it's one less. Right. Right. 51.
Yep.
0.1306,
Yep.
43
Yeah.
north,
Yep.
and the other one is 0.267
Yep. Yep.
537 east.
So now we're looking at GPS coordinates to get the exact coordinates for this location.
3
Yep.
07
Yep.
01
Yep.
north, 0.26
Yep.
7263 east. 51
Yep.
13
Yep.
07 33
Yep.
north, 0.267
Yep.
288
Yep.
east.
0.26. Yep.
70
Yep.
13.
Yep.
Right. And then we're going to go up to the 4 metre one. Right, this one is 51.13 0817 north, 0.267 039 east.
And we have now finished our work for the day.
So there concludes another ETN field trip.
It was a few days later that John and Geoff sent in their results. But first, a comment on the old maps. I just wanted to comment on a phone call that I've just had with Peter Vincent, our dowsing detective and remote viewer. Now, what he has been telling me is that in his research of
old maps of the Tunbridge Wells area, and certainly the Calverley Grounds part, is that on a 1910 microfiche and an 1808 map, there appears to be standing stones. Now, these standing stones are not in evidence on the 1860 map, which is a 1 in 500 scale done by the military. He said, in fact, in one area, it actually looks like the area in question where there were standing stones on other parts of the maps of the 1910 and 1808 maps, there are none. It looks like they've been whited out, for want of a better phrase. And he only noticed this by kind of holding up to the light the map and noticing some anomalies within it. And when he really had those magnified, he could see that in fact they looked exactly like stones. And we're not talking about pebbles here, we're talking about maybe standing stones. So what is it that the authorities in Tunbridge Wells do not want the public at large to know? Now, look, I don't think that Tunbridge Wells perhaps is that unique a place. England is full of mysteries, some of those known, and certainly I think Tunbridge Wells is one of those where forbidden archaeology, literally actually forbidden archaeology, is at play here. To do what we did in Calverley Grounds, even the local archaeologist Nigel Stapple was surprised we got permission. So there's something afoot here and we are investigating it. So that's just a comment on the work that we're doing. It is minutiae detail, but this is obviously something that was done. We're not saying that the military who first produced the maps were responsible for this deception in the maps, but certainly somebody where the maps were stored were instructed to do so. Just like in the late 1970s, the council instructed a Mr. Arthur Ashby, park keeper, to destroy the stones. They actually sent in JCBs to do that. And we have documented this in the Grove episodes 1 and 2. And you can listen to an original recording of an elderly Mr. Ashby talking exactly about that point. So it's very interesting, isn't it? Make of it what you will, and we will let you know the results in due course. Stay tuned.
Geoff writes that the images were processed by the West Kent Archaeological Society members John, who was there on the day, and Andy. He goes on to say, the high resistance shows as white or red, which could represent larger stones stroke monoliths, or more likely natural sandstone outcrops just under the surface. He states that the very dry conditions and possible landscaped surfaces made the interpretation difficult. In Zone A, there is certainly a high resistance patch close to the exposed stone, close to the flower bed, which looks more like an outcrop rather than a single rectangular shaped standing stone. There are several smaller high resistance patches low down on the slope close to where we finished, but they are also rather irregular in shape. In Zone D, there are 3 main dark low resistance patches and a number of smaller high resistance areas, which could represent burials, but more likely from ground landscaping activities. Who knows? He feels that they couldn't be very definitive and the results are open to interpretation. And Nigel made a comment. He was the archaeologist on the day, and he said that it is the white areas that are showing high resistance and that the red is simply the survey area that wasn't covered by the scan. It's the flower beds. He said he'd had a look at the scans, and despite the dry conditions, there does appear to be features that might warrant further investigation in the future. This could be quite exciting because it could provide verification of what Peter Vincent, the Dowsing Detective and remote viewer, has been finding.